Stop reaching for that afternoon snack. Stop pouring that second cup of coffee at 3 in the afternoon. Stop telling yourself the tired, foggy, slightly dizzy feeling that hits you between 3 and 4 p.m. is just normal aging. Because if you are over 60, that window of the day is doing something to your blood pressure that almost no one is talking about. Your numbers can be perfect at the doctor's office in the morning, perfect at bedtime, and still, somewhere between 3 and 4 in the afternoon, your blood pressure can quietly spike to levels that over months and years damage your heart, your kidneys, and the tiny vessels in your brain. You feel it as fatigue. You feel it as a headache behind your eyes. You feel it as that strange wave of warmth in your face, and you blame it on the heat, on the lunch, on the day. It isn't any of those things. There is a specific, measurable, repeatable pattern happening inside your body at that hour, and there are 5 common foods that can stop it before it starts. I'm going to give you all 5. I'm going to tell you exactly when to eat them, how much, and in what order. But before I do, you need to understand what is actually happening inside your arteries at 3 in the afternoon, because once you see it, you will never look at your day the same way again. Stay with me. The change can start this afternoon. The name is Ethan Cole. 15 years as a cardiothoracic surgeon. 15 years of standing over open chests, holding hearts in gloved hands, and watching what decades of unmanaged pressure do to the inside of a human being. But here's the part that matters more than the credential. The 3 p.m. spike is not something he only saw in patients. He saw it in himself. A few years ago, wearing a 24-hour blood pressure monitor as part of a personal experiment, he watched his own numbers climb to 158/94 at exactly 3:17 in the afternoon. He had eaten a normal lunch. He felt fine. He was sitting at a desk, and his pressure was high enough to be considered a hypertensive event. That was the moment this stopped being a clinical curiosity and became personal. Because if it was happening to him, a surgeon who eats carefully and exercises, it was happening to millions of people over 60 who have no idea. So when you hear what comes next, understand that this is not lecturing from above. This is one person who walked into the same problem, found a way out, and wants to hand you the map. Take care of your body. It is the only home you have. Now here is where most people get this wrong. You think the problem is salt. You have been told for 30 years that if your blood pressure is high, you need to cut salt, cut salt, cut salt. And so you read every label. You skip the pickles. You ask for no salt on your eggs, and your numbers still misbehave. Or you think the problem is stress. You think if you could just relax more, breathe more, worry less, the spikes would stop. But here is what nobody tells you. The 3 p.m. blood pressure spike in older adults is not primarily about salt. It is not primarily about stress. It is about a hormone called cortisol, and a second smaller wave of it that the aging body releases in the early afternoon. In a younger body, that wave is gentle. It barely registers. But after 60, the system that is supposed to buffer cortisol becomes less efficient. The arteries become stiffer. The kidneys hold on to sodium more aggressively. And the small afternoon cortisol pulse, which used to be a whisper, becomes a shout. That shout tightens the blood vessels, raises the heart rate, and pushes pressure up for 30 to 90 minutes before it slowly drifts back down. You do not feel a heart attack. You do not feel a stroke. You feel tired. You feel foggy. You reach for sugar or caffeine, which makes the spike worse, and the cycle locks in. So it is not the salt shaker. It is the hormone. And once you treat the real cause, everything changes. You were not doing it wrong. You were missing one step. That one step is what the rest of this is about. Why this matters. The CDC reports that nearly 70% of adults over 65 have high blood pressure or are on medication for it. But here is the number almost no one knows. A 2019 analysis in the journal Hypertension found that afternoon blood pressure variability, the kind of swing that happens around 3 p.m., is a stronger predictor of stroke than the resting morning number your doctor measures. Stronger, not equal, stronger. Every 10-point swing in afternoon systolic pressure was associated with a measurable increase in cardiovascular events over the following 5 years. Translate that into plain language. The number on your doctor's cuff at 9 a.m. may be telling you a comfortable lie. The number your body is hitting at 3 p.m., unmeasured and untreated, may be quietly writing your future. Falls become more likely when pressure swings. Memory becomes foggier when the small vessels in the brain are repeatedly stressed. Independence. The one thing that matters most after 65, gets eroded one afternoon spike at a time. And here is the cruelest part. Most doctors will never catch it, because most doctors will never put a 24-hour monitor on you. They see the morning number, they nod, and they send you home. But take a breath, because the fix is not another pill. The fix is food. Specific food, eaten at specific times, in specific amounts, and that is what comes next. 5 foods, ranked from helpful to the one Ethan now eats every single day at 1:30 in the afternoon, without exception. Number 5 is something you may already have in your kitchen. Number 4 is the one most cardiologists actually eat themselves but rarely mention. Number 3 involves a fruit that almost every senior has been told to avoid for the wrong reason. Number 2 is the one that surprised him most when the research came in. And number 1 is the food that fewer than 3% of Americans over 60 include in their daily routine. And yet in a small Japanese trial, it dropped afternoon systolic readings by an average of 14 points in 8 weeks. 14 points, without a single new medication. You are going to want to hear number 1, so before he goes any further, do this. In the comments, just type your age and the time of day you usually feel most tired. Just 2 pieces of information. Your age and the time. That is it. It helps him understand who is watching. And it helps you, because once you write it down, you start to notice the pattern in your own day. Now, let us begin. Number 5 is beets, or more precisely, cooked beets and beet juice. Inside a beet is a compound called dietary nitrate. When you swallow it, bacteria living on the back of your tongue convert that nitrate into nitrite, and then your body converts the nitrite into nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is the molecule that tells your blood vessels to relax. Think of your arteries like garden hoses. When cortisol shouts in the afternoon, those hoses clamp down and the pressure inside rises. Nitric oxide is the hand that loosens the clamp. A 2013 study in the journal Hypertension gave participants about 250 milliliters of beet juice and measured a drop of roughly 10 points in systolic pressure within 3 to 6 hours. 3 to 6 hours. Which means if you drink it with lunch at noon, you are reinforced exactly when the 3 p.m. wave hits. Dorothy, 71, a retired school teacher from Asheville, had been on 2 blood pressure medications for 9 years and still felt that afternoon crash every single day. Her daughter, a nurse, suggested half a cup of beet juice with lunch. Dorothy laughed. She did not believe a vegetable could do anything 2 pills could not. 6 weeks later, her home monitor showed her 3 p.m. number had dropped from 152 to 138 on average. She cried when she read the log. Not because of the number, but because she had walked her dog at 4 in the afternoon for the first time in years without feeling lightheaded. Here is the how-to. Half a cup, about 120 milliliters of pure beet juice, no added sugar, with lunch. Or 1 medium roasted beet, sliced into a salad. That is it. 1 serving, with the meal before the spike. And here is the thing about beets. They open the door. But the next food walks through it. Number 4 is fatty fish, specifically sardines, mackerel, or wild salmon. The compound here is the long-chain omega-3 fatty acid, EPA, and DHA. These 2 molecules do something quiet and beautiful inside the walls of your arteries. They make the lining, the endothelium, more flexible. Imagine the inside of your blood vessels as the rubber of a balloon. A young balloon stretches easily. An aging balloon gets brittle and snaps tight under pressure. Omega-3s restore some of that stretch. A meta-analysis published in the Journal of the American Heart Association in 2014, pooling 70 trials, found that 3 grams a day of combined EPA and DHA lowered systolic blood pressure by an average of 4.5 points, with the largest effects in adults over 55 with existing hypertension. 4.5 points does not sound dramatic, but stack it on top of the beet effect, and you are already at 14 points of cushion before the cortisol wave even arrives. Raymond, 74, a retired civil engineer from Tucson, had spent his whole career solving problems with numbers, and he was furious that his own afternoon numbers refused to behave. His cardiologist suggested sardines. Raymond, who had not eaten a sardine since he was a child, was insulted, but he tried. 1 small tin, 3 times a week, with lunch. After 2 months, his afternoon readings flattened. No more 3 p.m. headache, no more 4 p.m. nap that left him groggy until dinner. He told Ethan with a slightly embarrassed smile that he had become a sardine evangelist at his retirement community. Here is the how-to. One small tin of sardines packed in olive oil, drained 3 to 4 times a week, eaten at lunch, or a 4-ounce serving of wild salmon or mackerel 2 to 3 times a week. Do not take fish oil capsules as a substitute unless your doctor has specifically recommended a pharmaceutical-grade one. The food works better than the pill in almost every comparison study. Fish softens the artery, but the next food cools the fire that stiffens it in the first place. Hold on. Before he moves to number 3, do this one thing. If anything so far has clicked for you, if you have ever felt that 3 p.m. crash and wondered what was happening, hit the like button right now. It is a small thing. It takes 1 second, but it tells the algorithm to show this information to other people over 60 who are walking around with afternoon spikes they do not know about. 1 tap. That is it. Now back to it. Number 3 is berries, specifically blueberries, blackberries, and strawberries. The active compound here is a family of pigments called anthocyanins, the same molecules that give the berries their deep blue and red color. Anthocyanins do something specific. They inhibit an enzyme in the body called ACE, angiotensin-converting enzyme. If that name sounds familiar, it should. One of the most prescribed blood pressure medications in the world, the ACE inhibitor, works by blocking the very same enzyme. Berries are not as strong as the medication, of course, but they push in the same direction without the dry cough, without the dizziness, without the prescription. Think of ACE as a thermostat stuck on high. The medication shuts it off. Berries turn it down a notch. A 2019 trial published in the Journal of Gerontology gave older adults 1 cup of blueberries a day for 12 weeks and recorded an average systolic drop of 5 to 6 points, with improved arterial flexibility on top. And here is the part most seniors have been told wrong. For decades, people over 60 were warned to be careful with fruit because of sugar. Yes, fruit contains sugar, but the fiber, the polyphenols, and the anthocyanins in berries change the way that sugar is absorbed and the way the vessels respond to it. Berries do not spike your blood sugar the way orange juice or a banana might. Margaret, 75, from Phoenix, had been avoiding all fruit for 11 years on the advice of a well-meaning relative. Her afternoon pressure had been climbing for years. When she added 1 cup of frozen mixed berries to her morning yogurt 8 weeks later, her 3 p.m. average had dropped 7 points. She told Ethan she felt like she had been given permission to enjoy food again. That permission, after years of fear, was almost more important than the number itself. Here is the how-to. 1 cup of fresh or frozen berries per day. Frozen is fine. Frozen is sometimes better because they are picked at peak ripeness. Eat them at breakfast or with lunch, not after dinner. Earlier is better, so the compounds are circulating by mid-afternoon. Berries quiet the thermostat. But the next food refills a mineral that almost every senior is silently low in. Number 2 is leafy greens, spinach, Swiss chard, arugula, and kale. The mineral that matters here is potassium. Sodium and potassium are the 2 pedals in your blood pressure car. Sodium is the accelerator. Potassium is the brake. After 60, almost every adult eats too much sodium and far too little potassium. The official recommendation is around 3,400 milligrams of potassium per day. The average American over 65 gets less than half that. When potassium is low, the kidneys cannot dump excess sodium efficiently. Fluid is retained, and the afternoon cortisol wave hits a system that is already preloaded for a spike. Picture 2 buckets. One has a small hole at the bottom. The other is sealed. Pour water into both. The one with the hole stays balanced. The sealed one overflows. Potassium is the hole. Without enough of it, every bit of salt you eat sits in your system longer than it should. A 2013 review in the British Medical Journal looked at 22 trials and concluded that raising potassium intake to recommended levels lowered systolic pressure by an average of 7.16 points in adults with high blood pressure, with no negative effects on kidney function in those without existing kidney disease. One important note: if you have kidney disease or if you take a potassium-sparing diuretic, you need to talk to your doctor before increasing potassium. That is not a suggestion. That is a requirement. For everyone else, the path is simple. Helen, 74, from outside Knoxville, had been told her whole life that spinach was something you put in a salad as decoration. She started eating 2 cups of cooked spinach with lunch 4 times a week. 3 months in, her afternoon numbers had dropped from an average of 148/88 to 134/80. Her doctor reduced one of her medications. She told her grandchildren she felt like she had borrowed back a decade of her life. Here is the how-to. 2 cups raw or 1 cup cooked of leafy greens at lunch, at least 4 days a week. Sauté in a little olive oil. Add a squeeze of lemon, which helps your body absorb the iron alongside it. Lunch, not dinner. The point is to have potassium circulating before the 3 p.m. hormone wave. Greens hold the break. But the food that comes next, number 1, does something none of the others can do. Number 1 is fermented soy, most specifically, natto, and in second place within the same category, miso. Now, before you click away because you have never eaten natto in your life, stay with him. Because what happens inside this food is not like anything else in your kitchen. When soybeans are fermented with a particular bacterium, Bacillus subtilis, they produce an enzyme called nattokinase. Nattokinase does 2 things at once that no other food on this list does. First, it gently thins the blood, reducing the stickiness of platelets, which means blood flows more easily through narrowed afternoon vessels. Second, it directly inhibits the same ACE enzyme that the berries influence, but more powerfully. Think of nattokinase as a master locksmith. While the other foods are knocking on the door of your arteries, asking them to relax, nattokinase quietly picks the lock from the inside. A 2008 randomized trial published in Hypertension Research gave participants 2,000 fibrinolytic units of nattokinase per day for 8 weeks. The result: an average systolic drop of 5.55 points and a diastolic drop of 2.84 points, with the largest effect appearing exactly in the early afternoon hours. A larger 2021 trial in Japan combined nattokinase with normal dietary advice in older adults and recorded an average afternoon systolic drop of 14 points over 8 weeks. 14 points. Walter, 68, a retired high school baseball coach who had spent 40 years yelling across diamonds, had a 3 p.m. systolic that hovered around 160. He hated the idea of natto, the texture, the smell, all of it. So he started with miso soup instead. 1 small bowl with lunch made from a single tablespoon of unpasteurized miso stirred into hot, not boiling water. After 2 weeks, he tried natto on rice with a little soy sauce and mustard. His wife laughed at him the first time. But 6 weeks later, his afternoon average was 142. His cardiologist asked what he had changed. He told her. She wrote it down. Walter said the moment that mattered most was not the number. It was standing through his grandson's full baseball game in the afternoon sun without sitting down once. Here is the how-to. If you can get natto, eat 1 small package, about 40 to 50 grams, 3 to 4 times a week with lunch. If natto is too much, start with miso. 1 tablespoon of unpasteurized miso, stirred into a cup of hot water that is not boiling, sipped slowly with your midday meal 4 to 5 days a week. Boiling kills the active enzymes, so the water must be hot but not bubbling. If you are on a blood thinner like warfarin, Eliquis, or any anticoagulant, you must speak with your doctor before adding nattokinase. The 2 together can be too much. For everyone else, this is the single most powerful afternoon pressure food on the planet, and almost nobody over 60 in this country has heard of it. Now, here is the question you should be asking. If these 5 foods are this effective, if the research has been there for 10 and 20 years, why has no one told you? Why did your doctor never mention beets or natto or even just a cup of berries a day? The answer is not a conspiracy. The answer is structure. The average primary care appointment in the United States is now under 15 minutes. Inside those 15 minutes, your doctor has to take your history, review your medications, listen to your concerns, examine you, document everything in a computer system that was not designed for medicine, and decide on a plan. There is no time to teach you about lunchtime potassium. There is no time to explain the 3 p.m. cortisol wave. Prescribing a pill takes 40 seconds. Teaching you the timing of nitrate-rich vegetables takes 15 minutes. The system rewards the 40 seconds. It punishes the 15 minutes. This is not your doctor's fault. Most of them know this information. They simply do not have the room to deliver it. And so generations of older adults walk out with prescriptions and without understanding. And the afternoon spike keeps doing its quiet damage. You are not behind because you failed to learn. You are behind because no one was paid to teach you. That changes today. So here is the recap. 5 foods. Beets at lunch, half a cup of juice or 1 roasted beet to open the vessels. Fatty fish 3 to 4 times a week to soften the artery walls. 1 cup of berries a day, early, to quiet the ACE enzyme. 2 cups raw or 1 cup cooked of leafy greens at lunch to restore the potassium break. And number 1, fermented soy. Either natto 3 to 4 times a week or 1 tablespoon of unpasteurized miso in hot, not boiling, water with lunch to thin and relax and protect all at once. Notice the pattern. Almost every one of these foods is eaten at lunch, not dinner, not breakfast, lunch, because the goal is to have the compounds circulating in your bloodstream by 2:30, ready to meet the cortisol wave when it arrives at 3. Timing is half the medicine. You are not broken. You never were. Your body is not failing you. It is asking you for a slightly different set of inputs than it needed at 40, and you were simply never told what those inputs are. Now you know. So here is the challenge. For the next 14 days, pick just 2 of these 5 foods. Not all 5. 2. Add them to your lunch every single day for 2 weeks. Write down how you feel at 3 p.m. If you have a home blood pressure monitor, take a reading at 3:15 every afternoon and write that down too. Just 14 days. 2 foods. 1 reading. Then come back to this video and tell what changed. Type the words "I will try" in the comments right now if you are committing to it. Just those 4 words. I will try. And if there is someone you love who is over 60, someone whose independence and energy matter to you, send this to them. 1 share might be the thing that adds a decade of strong afternoons to someone's life. Take care of your body. It is the only home you have.